The alien delegation stood in complete silence as the holographic display flickered to life before them. Ambassador Zixter had traveled 17 star systems to reach this small blue planet, expecting to find primitive creatures still struggling with basic survival. What he found instead had shaken every belief his species held about the universe. The human historian smiled warmly at his guests, their tall gray forms casting long shadows across the museum floor. He activated the next sequence of the presentation, and suddenly the room transformed into ancient Rome. Buildings rose from nothing, streets filled with people in strange flowing garments. The smell of bread and wine seemed to drift through the air, though the aliens knew it was merely a sensory enhancement built into the display technology. Zixter leaned forward, his four eyes blinking in rapid succession. His species, the Velthari, had mastered space travel while humans were still discovering fire. They had built cities that floated among the clouds of gas giants. They had created machines that could harvest energy from dying stars. Yet nothing in their 10,000 years of civilization had prepared them for what they were about to witness. The historian began speaking in a calm voice. He told them about a man named Marcus Aurelius Corvinus, a name that meant nothing to the aliens, but would soon become burned into their collective memory. Marcus was born in the year 70 AD, by human counting, in a small village outside Rome. His father was a simple stonemason who could barely afford to feed his family. His mother died giving birth to his younger sister. By all measures of their society, Marcus should have lived and died in obscurity, just another forgotten soul in the great machine of the Roman Empire. But Marcus had a gift that set him apart from everyone around him. He could look at a pile of stones and see a temple. He could study a patch of empty land and imagine a palace standing upon it. While other children played games in the streets, Marcus spent his days drawing shapes in the dirt, calculating angles that his teachers could not understand, dreaming of structures that defied the imagination of his time. The hologram shifted, and the aliens watched as a young Marcus approached the great architects of Rome. He was barely 20 years old, wearing clothes that marked him as poor and unimportant. The established builders laughed at him. They called him a fool and a dreamer. One of them threw a cup of wine in his face and told him to go back to his village where he belonged. But Marcus did not leave. He stood outside the workshops for 3 days without food or water, waiting for someone to give him a chance. On the 4th day, an old architect named Gaius took pity on the young man. He invited Marcus inside and asked him to solve a simple problem that had troubled Roman builders for generations. How could they create a dome that would not collapse under its own weight? Marcus studied the problem for less than an hour before presenting a solution that left Gaius speechless. The young man had discovered principles of weight distribution that would not be fully understood by human science for another 1,500 years. Zixter exchanged glances with his fellow delegates. The Velthari had encountered many species across the galaxy, and most of them developed technology in predictable patterns. First came fire, then simple tools, then agriculture, then gradually more complex innovations over thousands of years. But humans seemed to operate differently. They produced individuals who could leap ahead of their time, geniuses who should not have existed given the limitations of their era. The historian continued his story, and the hologram showed Marcus rising through the ranks of Roman architecture. He designed temples that seemed to touch the sky. He created aqueducts that carried water across impossible distances. His bridges stood firm against floods that destroyed everything else in their path. By the age of 35, Marcus had become the most respected architect in the entire empire. Emperors sought his counsel. Wealthy families begged him to design their homes. He could have lived in luxury for the rest of his days, enjoying the fruits of his success. But Marcus wanted something more. He wanted to create a structure that would outlast the empire itself. He wanted to build something so magnificent that people would still speak of it 2,000 years later. Most of all, he He wanted to prove that humans were capable of achievements that even the gods would envy. The Emperor Vespasian summoned Marcus to his palace in the year 72. Rome needed a great amphitheater, a place where citizens could gather to witness spectacles that would unite the empire. Previous attempts had failed. Buildings collapsed. Fires destroyed wooden structures. The challenge seemed impossible. But the emperor had heard stories about Marcus and his miraculous abilities. He offered the architect unlimited resources and complete creative freedom. In return, he demanded a masterpiece. Marcus spent 3 months in complete isolation, refusing to see anyone while he developed his master plan. His assistants worried that he had gone mad. Some whispered that the pressure had broken his brilliant mind. But when Marcus finally emerged from his workshop, he carried with him drawings that would change the course of human history. The hologram expanded to show the plans in detail, and the alien delegates gasped in unison. They saw a massive oval structure capable of holding 50,000 spectators. They saw a complex system of underground tunnels and chambers that could raise animals and fighters to the arena floor through hidden trapdoors. They saw a retractable canvas roof system that could provide shade to the entire audience. They saw numbered seating sections and multiple entrance gates designed to allow the entire crowd to enter or exit in minutes rather than hours. Zixter stood up from his seat, unable to contain his amazement. His species had developed similar crowd management technologies, but only after inventing computers powerful enough to run complex simulations. This human had designed the same systems using nothing but mathematical calculations done by hand on paper made from plant fibers. The historian smiled at the alien's reaction and continued with his story. He explained that construction began immediately, with thousands of workers dedicating their lives to bringing Marcus's vision to reality. The architect supervised every detail personally. He invented new techniques for mixing concrete that would remain strong for millennia. He developed innovative methods for lifting heavy stones using systems of ropes and pulleys that multiplied human strength 100-fold. He solved problems on the spot that would have stopped lesser minds for years. The hologram showed the years passing, and slowly the great structure rose from the earth. Workers sang songs about Marcus and his impossible dream. Children gathered to watch the construction, knowing they were witnessing something historic. Even the emperor himself visited the site regularly, marveling at the progress and praising his architect's genius. But not everyone celebrated. Rival architects spread rumors that the building would collapse. Religious leaders claimed that Marcus had made deals with dark forces to achieve his success. Political enemies whispered that the project was wasting money that could be spent on military conquests. Marcus faced constant opposition from those who feared his vision or envied his abilities. One night, a group of conspirators set fire to the construction site, hoping to destroy years of work in a single blaze. Marcus was awakened by the screams of workers and rushed to the scene. The flames threatened to consume everything he had built. But instead of despairing, the architect calmly organized a response. He directed workers to create fire breaks using the very tools they used for construction. He ordered water carriers to focus on protecting the most critical structural elements. He personally climbed into the burning scaffolding to rescue workers who had become trapped. By morning, the fire was extinguished. Some damage had been done, but the core structure remained intact. Marcus had saved not only his building but also the lives of dozens of workers who would have died without his quick thinking. The conspirators were caught and punished, and the emperor rewarded Marcus with honors previously reserved for military heroes. The construction continued for 8 years, and finally, in 80 AD, the Flavian amphitheater stood complete. The hologram showed the opening ceremonies, with thousands of citizens streaming through the gates to witness the first spectacles. The building worked exactly as Marcus had designed. Crowds moved smoothly through the numbered entrances. The underground systems delivered fighters and animals to the arena with perfect timing. The canvas roof provided shade to grateful spectators under the hot Roman sun. Marcus stood in a private box, watching his masterpiece function for the first time. He was now an old man, his hair white and his hands no longer steady. But his eyes still burned with the same fire that had driven him since childhood. He had achieved what he set out to do. He had built something immortal. The historian paused the hologram and looked directly at the alien delegates. He explained that the structure Marcus built still stands today, nearly 2,000 years later. Humans call it the Colosseum, and it remains one of the most visited monuments on Earth. The engineering principles Marcus invented are still studied by architects throughout the galaxy. His methods for crowd management influenced the design of stadiums and arenas for 20 centuries. Zixter finally found his voice and asked the question that burned in his mind. His species had been traveling among the stars for 10 millennia. They had encountered over 300 intelligent species across the galaxy. Many of them had built impressive structures. But none of them had ever produced anything like this. Not without computers, not without advanced materials, not without the accumulated knowledge of countless generations. The historian nodded slowly and gave his answer. He explained that humans were not smarter than other species. They were not stronger or faster or more technologically advanced. What made them different was something harder to define. They refused to accept limitations. They dreamed of impossible things and then found ways to make them real. They produced individuals like Marcus who could not be satisfied with what was, only with what could be. The alien delegates returned to their ship that evening, carrying with them a new understanding of the species they had come to study. Their reports would eventually reach every corner of Velthari civilization, changing how their people viewed the small blue planet and its inhabitants. The humans were young, they would explain. The humans were chaotic and violent and often self-destructive. But the humans had something that could not be measured or quantified, a spark of creativity that allowed them to achieve miracles. And somewhere in the stars, on 1,000 different worlds, other species would read those reports and look toward Earth with a mixture of fear and admiration. Because if one human with nothing but stones and dreams could build something that lasted 2,000 years, what might all of humanity achieve when they finally reached for the stars? The Colosseum still stands today, its ancient stones weathered but unbroken. Tourists from every nation walk through its gates, marveling at the genius of its design. And though Marcus Aurelius Corvinus has been dead for nearly 2 millennia, his legacy lives on, a testament to what humans can accomplish when they refuse to accept the impossible.